Hello and welcome. I am DEJI360. Let's talk about the controversial tax reform that is currently causing, a lot of tension in the country, if you like. Well, maybe not tension, but people are talking about it. Now, amid the controversy over President Bola Tinubu's tax reform bill submitted to the National Assembly, the National Economic Council has actually recommended its withdrawal to allow for broader stakeholders' consultation, shedding light on the issue while speaking with newsmen after the council meeting presided by Vice President Kashim Shettima at the council chambers. Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State explained that the council members in their recommendation agreed that it was necessary to allow for consensus building and understanding of the bill among Nigerians. According to him, the decision was made for the benefit of the entire country, irrespective of political affiliations and interest. Take a listen to what he has to say.
Their main focus is fair taxation, responsible borrowing, and sustainable spending. The council acknowledged that the country is underperforming on all indices as it regards yields from major revenue sources, also our tax to GDP ratio, and so on. So after extensive deliberation, NEC noted the need for sufficient alignment between and amongst the stakeholders for the proposed reforms. So Council therefore recommend the need to withdraw the bill currently before the National Assembly on tax reforms so that we can have wider consultations and also build consensus around these reforms for the benefit of the entire country.
Well, that was the outcome of the NEC meeting over the issue of that tax reform, which has become a very big talking point in the country. Don't forget that before now, the northern governors had actually held a meeting where they rejected the tax reform, particularly the part of the reform now that has to do with VAT. So they are against it, according to the northern governors. If the bill is allowed to sail through, then it would further impoverish the north. They say the bill is actually skewed against the north. So the northern governors are totally against it. Quite a number of people from the north are against the bill. In fact, that has actually prompted the chairperson now of the Presidential Committee on Tax Reform, that's Taiwo Yedele, to actually come out and try to explain this, try to explain that, look, what they had actually proposed would ensure equity and fairness. But it appears, the governors are not understanding this. So at that NEC meeting, all the 36 state governors now decided to advise the president to withdraw the bill. The president, of course, the presidency has issued a statement defending the bills and saying that, look, the tax reform bill itself is not designed or is not skewed. It's not designed to favor any particular region, that it's actually for equity and fairness. But then the issue is still generating a lot of debate in the country, a lot of concern. Everyone is waiting to see how the president responds and whether the president is going to withdraw the bill. Remember, the bill is before the National Assembly. It's just gone through first reading, and the actual debate on the bill has not started. So we'll wait and see what the president does with the bill. But joining me now to shed more light on all of this, I have two gentlemen. Joining me from Kebbi State is Aliyu Onimisi, who's a public affairs analyst. Also joining us on the program is Segun Sopiton, who is the principal partner, Woodridge and Scott Consulting. He's also a financial analyst. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on the program. And let me say, Aliyu Onimisi is also a development economist. Gentlemen, I want to thank you very much for coming on the program. Let me start with you, Aliu. Would you say this is more like a storm in a teacup? Is there any cause for worry, any cause for concern over this bill, especially after the explanation given by Taiwo Oyedele, who is the chair of the presidential committee now on tax reform and revenue?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Aliu Onimisi.
Oh, doctor, sorry. I sincerely apologize.
Now, I agree with you. There is a good bill being proposed by the executive, we have had quite a problem of shortage of revenue when you compare it with the expenditure, and with the proposal coming from stakeholders, there is need for consensus. You understand? Everybody have to be on the same page. So I think there is need for this bill to be withdrawn as proposed by some other, elites and, experts, so that, it can be adjusted in a way, because when you look at the area of contention, which is on this issue of VAT, previously it was based on remittance, where is remitted from.
Yes.
That is the sharing formula. So now the focus with the new proposed bill is meant to focus on the supply and consumption. So I think, yes, I think that is where the issue is, and there's need for everybody to be on the same page.
But then the argument and explanation given by Taiwo Oyedele is that, look, what they are proposing, which is based on that derivation now based on consumption and supply, would actually favor the North as well, especially when you consider that way, where food, for instance, the food that we consume in this country, where it is produced, they won't be left out because, there's no VAT on food, or because their products are tax exempt, that this will provide for equity, if you like, rather than the current system that is based on, basically where the VAT is remitted to.
This bill, this particular area, as regards to the distribution of VAT, has been on a top argument among, will I say, some people on the media, as concerns some of the items. Like, for example, if I have to be specific here, I'll say, like, in the area of alcohol, for example, there are some section of the country that don't abide by the consumption of that product. So, and it's being provided supply from some section of the country. So some people felt, okay, if we are producing this item and some other section are not consuming, are not, buying it, and is being banned in some certain state, they are not supposed to be entitled to the VAT generated from that product. So it's going to be more of a divergent opinion. So what we need now is convergent. We need to bring everybody into the same page. So I will strongly still support that they should look into that aspect, because every other aspect of the bill seems to be okay by all stakeholders. So, it will be very, very difficult to convince the North, especially when you have the 19 governors and some youth area, everybody, putting forward their own argument against this particular section of the bill. So I believe that if this bill can be restructured, it's a good bill, and because the essence of democracy is to carry everybody along. So I strongly believe that will, push the country forward if such is done.
All right, I'll come back to you. Let me come to you, Mr. Shokwitom. Give me your take on all of this. Is all of this, back and forth actually necessary?
Well, yes. I do believe that that there is a basis for there's a need for some sort of adjustment to ensure that there is more fairness to the allocation or sharing of some of these taxes. If like my colleague has rightly said, if you remember, it wasn't that long ago, about 3-4 years ago, when there was a very serious controversy between certain state governments and the federal government over this very tax VAT allocation of VAT collections and the sharing thereof, where Lagos State in particular and River State actually went to court to try and seize the administration of value-added tax from the federal government to the state government to become under the jurisdiction of the state government. And the argument was that they were being unfairly penalized, by them losing significant chunks of the revenues from the things that, were consumed in their own jurisdiction, to the benefit of places where those things were not consumed. And I think that that is what this amendment is trying to address. However, I think that the process of administering this may well become extremely challenging, determining the point of consumption versus the point of production in terms of, as well as where those taxes are paid, can become extremely messy. And I think that the tax authorities would need to sit down to develop very clear framework technology platforms that will ensure that if we're going to actually pursue this derivation principle in the allocation of VAT taxes, that we have wherewithal to do so accurately. Because if we don't, then we're going to create a huge mess that might leave us far worse off than where we currently are. So on the one hand, I do agree that there's a need to amend how VAT taxes in particular is shared in a more equitable manner, similar to the concept of derivation for natural resources and all of that. However, we have to be careful how we go about it so we don't leave everybody, involved with a short end of the stick.
What do you make of the position of that committee? I mean, the head of the committee explaining that, look, what they have actually proposed, that their proposal will ensure equity and fairness, so to speak, and that no one will be left out. That the current arrangement where VAT is it actually goes to, remitted to is remitted, for instance, to where the companies are located, so to speak. That it really does not. It's not equitable. It leaves out quite a number of states from the whole equation. And then I would also want you to respond to something that Dr. Onimisi said about the issue of alcohol. The non-consumption of alcohol in some parts of the country. We know that has been on the table for a long time. That in some northern states where alcohol is not consumed, they also benefit from VAT. And for him, that when you look at this very closely, it would appear that the current proposal would appear to be targeted at addressing that issue. So what you would end up with is that these states where this alcohol is not consumed will not benefit from VAT.
I mean, to be honest, I think that the northern states do have cause for concern, because I agree with you. I think that it would appear as though some of these reforms are actually, meant to address that sense of unfairness on the part of, the parts of the country where the consumption of these items are very large. In the southern parts, in places like Lagos, Port Harcourt, they're very well known for the volumes of alcohol that they consume. And like my colleague has said, in many parts of the north, apart from it being in some places just a cultural misnomer, in some places it's actually banned by law. You can't take alcohol in the public. Now, in such places, the feeling amongst the southern states is, why should they share the VAT based on the current formula, which takes into account population as a significant part of the sharing formula, which means that a state, for example, like Kano, that is very, very largely endowed. I think after Lagos State, Kano State is the largest population center in Nigeria. So by that alone, Kano State will get a large chunk of the VAT resources, and a place like Lagos will say they are the ones suffering for this because they don't consume these things in Kano. And meanwhile, we must remember value-added tax is consumption tax. It's you are saying pay a tax for the value that you get for every item that you purchase, right? So if that is the case, the question I think is a fair question to say, why should states where these things are not consumed get larger chunks than even states where it is heavily consumed? So if you compare Kano State, for example, to maybe a Cross River State, the population disparity would mean that potentially Kano State will get more VAT than Cross River, where people actually drink like fishes, with all due respect to my friends from there, right? So I think that maybe that's one of the things that this is meant to address.
I'm happy you just explained that. So Dr. Nimisi, can you help us to answer that question? Should states, for instance, and let's narrow this down to this issue of alcohol. Should states that states where alcohol, for instance, is banned, should they benefit from the VAT derived from alcohol consumption?
Actually, when in my own subjective opinion, I would say that this adjustment is a way to encourage every state to add more to the revenue, because when you are not being given in certain area, like this issue of alcohol, if it is based on the supply and the consumption as the bill proposed, it will kind of engineer other states to do well in areas where they have comparative advantage than others. And that will also, in a way, raise their own, share out of the VAT that will be collected, because it's going to be on basis on the basis of derivation now. So it's going to be a win-win situation. But because of the fear on ground, I will still come back to it and say that there is need for wider consultation, where these fears can, be minimized, and everybody will feel sense of belonging. Everybody will feel that they are being carried along in this reform.
And I'm just wondering, how do you think this can be resolved? I mean, look, we're talking about primordial sentiments here, and clear positions have been taken. So how can this be resolved? Now the governors are advising they're advising the president to withdraw the bill for a wider consultation. If that is done, and it's looking like that is going to happen, at some point you will definitely get reactions from the South as well. So how do you think the government can balance this and create something that is acceptable to everyone?
Compromise. Every party will have to compromise in a way or the other. Like now, as my colleague have just rightly said, that sharing based on population numbers is no more acceptable by all. So all these factors can be merged together, like where in terms of remittance, where it's being remitted from, which is the previous procedure. Then you also include the area of supply and this consumption. So all these three areas can be merged together, and some sort of readjustment, like in terms of the percentage that goes for this remittance or supply can be readjusted. Like in area where you give 5%, you can say, okay, we drop it to 2% or 3%, then the other one can take certain percent. So by so doing, I think there will be some sort of agreement, and everybody will be be carried along at the end of the day.
What do you make of that proposal, Mr. Shokweton? What do you make of what he's just suggested now?
Absolutely agree. And I also think that we need to emphasize, especially for the benefit of policymakers that are listening to this conversation. I mean, I know your show is very popular and I know that you have a large audience. Look, there's something that Dr. Onimisi just said now that I think we need to emphasize. Compromise on the one hand, but more critically, the fact that the objective of this policy is not to punish. It's actually meant to widen significantly the productive base, is to encourage those places where some of these items are either not produced or not consumed, to take deliberate policy action to enhance their own access to that VAT pool. You know, if, for example, you've got a ban in a place, just using the alcohol example, I don't know how feasible this would be, but can we shift from an outright ban to maybe subtle moral suasion when it comes to alcohol, so that somehow you can enjoy a bit more consumption? The idea of supply and consumption now being a part of the revenue sharing model would also ensure that everybody is striving to produce more and consume more. The overall winner will be everybody, because we're all creating more value. So that aspect of this needs to be sold with a lot of vigor, with a lot of very clear messaging, especially from Mr. Oyedele's committee. You know, speaking to especially those that are afraid, to let them see the other side of it. You know, you can look at the cup half empty or half full, for them to look at it half full and see this as an opportunity for them to actually increase their revenue base. I think that has to be something that is emphasized strongly from those that are pushing this reform. So yes, step it down so that it doesn't create rancor and unnecessary, discord, across the country, and engage the major stakeholders, convince them, show them the how, even if possible, this can benefit them more, and then reintroduce, the bill maybe with some adjustments, as has been suggested by my colleague. And I think that if we do that, we probably will see some better reception.
All right, gentlemen, I want to thank you very much for coming on the program. Thank you very much for your positions, and I mean, quite enlightening, no doubt. Thank you very much for coming on the program. All right, we'll take a short break now. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Don't go away. Opinions are free. Facts are sacred. But truth is universal. How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
When you go into public office, you must be ready to answer to the people.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. The Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On DEJI360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts, and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians are saying in this part of the world. A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
DEJI360, dissecting the issues.